Today, I want to talk to you about a truth that separates those who only dream from those who actually achieve. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's consistency. In a world full of distractions, setbacks, and self-doubt, the people who rise above aren't always the smartest or the fastest. They're the ones who keep showing up day after day, no matter how they feel. On the other hand, excuses, no matter how convincing, only build walls between us and our goals. And if we're being honest, most of us don't need more reasons why we can't. We need stronger reasons why we must. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Decide to show up for yourself. Decide that your dreams are worth more than your excuses. It doesn't matter where you've been or how many times you've started over. What matters is what you decide to do now. Because the truth is, you don't need a perfect plan, you need a consistent one. Let's talk about how choosing consistency over excuses can completely change your direction. Starting today, in the pursuit of any meaningful goal, it's easy to become obsessed with grand gestures and massive leaps forward. We admire the overnight successes, viral moments, and breakout achievements. But what often goes unnoticed is the quiet force working behind those achievements, daily, deliberate action. Consistency isn't glamorous. It doesn't grab attention or generate applause. But over time, it builds a foundation so strong that success becomes inevitable. The truth is, greatness isn't built in a day. It's built every day. And what you choose to do daily matters far more than what you do occasionally or when you feel inspired. The real power lies not in a burst of energy or a wave of motivation, but in the small actions you commit to, even when you don't feel like it. Think about it. You don't get fit by going to the gym for 10 hours once a month. You get fit by going every day or every other day, pushing yourself just a little more each time. The same logic applies to every goal you want to achieve, whether it's writing a book, building a business, learning a skill, or improving your mindset. When you consistently show up and take action, even imperfectly, you create momentum. And once momentum kicks in, it becomes easier to keep moving forward. Most people underestimate the impact of small steps repeated consistently over time. They dismiss daily action because it seems too simple or too slow. But slow progress is still progress. One page written today may not feel like much, but one page written every day turns into a book. 10 push-ups today may seem insignificant, but in a year, that discipline could lead to a completely transformed body. The results may not show immediately, but they are quietly compounding in the background. That's the magic of consistency. It compounds like interest in a savings account. At first, the growth is invisible, but over time, it becomes exponential. Another reason daily action is so powerful is because it builds habits, and habits shape identity. When you consistently act in alignment with your goals, you start to see yourself differently. You stop thinking of yourself as someone who wants to write and begin to see yourself as a writer. You're no longer someone who's trying to get healthy. You're someone who takes care of your body. This identity shift creates a reinforcing loop. The more consistent you are, the more your identity aligns with your actions, and the more natural those actions become. Eventually, what once required discipline becomes second nature. Of course, consistency doesn't mean perfection. There will be days when you slip, when you feel unmotivated, when you miss the mark. But the key is to not let those days derail you. One missed day doesn't undo your progress. Quitting does. Consistency isn't about never falling off track. It's about always returning to the path. It's about making the decision every day to keep moving forward, no matter how small the step. And the more often you make that decision, the easier it becomes. The people who succeed in life are not always the most talented or the most connected. More often, they are the ones who just kept going. They kept taking action when it was hard, when it was boring, when no one was watching. They trusted the process. They focused not on the result, but on the effort. And eventually the results took care of themselves. That's the true power of daily action. It teaches you patience, resilience, and self-belief. So if you're sitting there waiting for the perfect time, the perfect plan, or the perfect level of motivation, stop, start where you are with what you have, and take one small step today. Then do it again tomorrow and the next day. Because if you want to change your life, you don't need a revolution, you need repetition. You need to be consistent. And once you understand that, once you embrace the power of daily action, there's nothing you can't achieve. Everyone has dreams, whether it's starting a business, getting in shape, writing a book, learning a skill, or building a better life. The desire to grow and achieve is a common thread that runs through us all. But for every dream, there's an equal and opposite force working quietly in the background. Excuses. They creep in silently, dressed as logic, wrapped in comfort, and disguised as valid reasons. But make no mistake, excuses are not harmless. They are the silent killers of progress. They don't scream or demand attention. Instead, they whisper doubts, justify inaction, and slowly steal your potential one day at a time. What makes excuses so dangerous is how reasonable they often sound. I'm too tired. I don't have enough time. I'll start next week. I'm not ready yet. On the surface, these seem like fair statements. Life is busy, unpredictable, and sometimes overwhelming. But if you look closer, these excuses are often just fear in disguise. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, or even fear of success. The problem isn't that we lack time or resources, it's that we allow fear to control our narrative. And the more we listen to these excuses, the stronger they become, until they turn into habits. Over time, we train ourselves to avoid effort, to retreat from challenge, and to rationalize every missed opportunity. Excuses give us short-term comfort, but long-term regret. In the moment, it feels easier to put things off or avoid discomfort, but eventually reality catches up. The opportunities we delay don't wait for us. The time we think we're saving is actually slipping through our fingers. One day becomes 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, and suddenly we look back and wonder why nothing changed. The hard truth is that if you don't take control of your time and actions, your excuses will. And when they do, they will quietly dismantle your dreams without you even realizing it. Some people spend years preparing, planning, and waiting for the right time, only to find that it never comes. The stars never align perfectly. Life doesn't pause so you can get everything in order. If you wait for ideal conditions, you'll be waiting forever. Excuses love this mindset. They thrive in delay and perfectionism. They trick you into thinking you're being smart or cautious, when really, you're just stalling. Action, no matter how imperfect, always beats waiting, because progress isn't made by those who wait for permission. It's made by those who take ownership and move forward despite uncertainty. One of the most powerful shifts you can make in your life is learning to take responsibility for your actions. That means being honest with yourself. When you say, I don't have time, ask if that's really true or if you've just prioritized other things. When you say, I can't, ask whether you mean you can't or you won't. This level of honesty can be uncomfortable, but it's where growth begins. Because once you stop blaming circumstances and start owning your choices, you reclaim your power. You stop being a victim of your schedule, your energy, or your past, and you become the architect of your future. Of course, this doesn't mean life isn't hard. Challenges are real. Setbacks happen. But there's a difference between acknowledging difficulty and hiding behind it. Excuses are rarely about the obstacle itself. They're about how you choose to respond to it. Some people face massive adversity and still find a way forward. Others give up at the first sign of resistance. The difference isn't in their circumstances. It's in their mindset. And if you want to win, you have to choose a mindset that rejects excuses and embraces accountability. When you decide to eliminate excuses from your vocabulary, something amazing happens. Your life starts to change. You begin to act with intention. You stop waiting and start doing. You no longer let fear or doubt steer the wheel. You take the driver's seat. It won't always be easy, and it definitely won't be perfect. But progress doesn't require perfection. It only requires commitment. Every time you choose action over excuse, you build momentum in life. And that momentum creates confidence, which fuels more action. So ask yourself, how much longer are you willing to let excuses decide your future? How many more dreams will you let them kill? The time to change is now, not when life gets easier, not when you feel more ready, but now. Decide today that your goals are more important than your excuses. Refuse to let them steal another day of your potential, because once you stop making excuses, there's nothing left standing between you and everything you're capable of becoming. Motivation is a great feeling. It's that surge of energy that comes when you watch an inspiring video, read a powerful quote, or imagine the life you want to build. In those moments, anything feels possible. You feel ready to take on the world. But then the alarm rings the next morning. You're tired. Life is messy. Doubt creeps in. And just like that, the motivation you felt the night before is gone. This is the truth no one likes to talk about. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes without warning. If you depend on it to fuel your actions, you will always be inconsistent. That's where discipline steps in. Unlike motivation, discipline doesn't care how you feel. It's not based on emotion. It's built on commitment. Discipline is doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. It's showing up on the hard days, the boring days, and the days when no one is watching. It's not about hype or excitement. It's about resolve. And this kind of consistency is what creates real progress. Motivation can start a journey, but only discipline can finish it. The people who achieve long-term success, whether in fitness, business, education, or personal growth, aren't the ones who feel inspired every day. They're the ones who built habits that carry them through when motivation inevitably disappears. One of the biggest mistakes people make is waiting to feel motivated before they act. They say, I'll start when I feel ready, or I'll work on it when I'm in the mood, but feelings are fleeting. If you only act when you feel like it, you'll rarely take action. Discipline, on the other hand, removes emotion from the equation. It turns decisions into non-negotiables. If you've committed to waking up early to work on your goals, you do it whether you're excited or exhausted. If you've decided to train 5 times a week, you show up whether it's convenient or not. This mindset creates freedom, not restriction, because you're no longer at the mercy of your moods. Building discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent. You won't always get it right. There will be setbacks, missed days, and moments of weakness. But the difference is disciplined people get back on track quickly. They don't let one slip turn into a downward spiral. They have a system. They know their why, and they've made a decision in advance to stay the course regardless of how they feel in any given moment. This kind of internal structure is what allows you to keep moving forward even when things get tough. Another important truth is that discipline actually creates motivation, not the other way around. When you take consistent action, you start seeing results. Those results, even small ones, boost your confidence. That confidence reignites your motivation, and suddenly you feel like doing even more. It's a cycle. but it starts with discipline. You don't wait to feel inspired, you act first and the feelings follow. This is the secret that most successful people understand. They don't rely on bursts of energy or occasional sparks of excitement. They build systems, routines, and habits that ensure progress no matter what. Discipline also sharpens your character. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you build trust with yourself. You prove to yourself that you can depend on your own word. That inner trust becomes the foundation of confidence and mental toughness. You start carrying yourself differently. You start believing in your ability to figure things out, to overcome challenges, to stay steady even when everything around you is chaotic. That kind of self-belief can't be bought. It's earned. One disciplined choice at a time. In contrast, when you rely on motivation alone, you fall into a pattern of stop and start. You make big promises during high-energy moments, only to break them later when the excitement fades. Over time, this damages your self-trust. You start doubting your own ability to follow through. You begin to see yourself as someone who starts things but never finishes. That doubt becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and eventually you stop trying altogether. Discipline breaks this cycle. It replaces emotional volatility with steady, intentional action. It rewrites your story. So while motivation may feel good in the moment, it's not something you can count on. Discipline is what turns goals into reality. It's what separates wishful thinking from real achievement. It doesn't require you to feel inspired. It just requires you to decide and then to follow through day after day, step after step. Because in the end, the life you want won't be built by the days you felt like working. It will be built by the days you didn't, but did it anyway. We often imagine success as a massive leap, a breakthrough moment, a dramatic transformation, or an overnight change. This mindset can be misleading. In reality, success is rarely the result of a single grand act. More often, it's the accumulation of small, consistent steps taken over time. These steps may seem insignificant at first. They may feel slow, tedious, or even pointless, but they are far from meaningless. In fact, they are the building blocks of every meaningful achievement. The journey toward any goal, whether it's improving your health, mastering a skill, growing a business, or reshaping your life, is not about making huge moves all at once. It's about doing the small things with intention over and over again until they compound into big results. The power of small steps lies in their simplicity. They are doable, repeatable, and sustainable. Anyone can take a small step, no matter their starting point. This is what makes them so powerful. You don't need perfect conditions, loads of experience, or extraordinary talent to begin. You just need to take one small action. Want to get in shape? Start with a 10-minute walk each day. Want to become a writer? Write 200 words every morning. Want to save money? Start by putting away just a few dollars a week. These actions might seem trivial, but over time they become habits, and habits shape outcomes. One of the main reasons people don't achieve their goals is because they get overwhelmed by the size of the task ahead. They look at where they are now, compare it to where they want to be, and feel discouraged by the gap. That gap feels too wide, too steep, too far. So instead of taking a step forward, they freeze, they procrastinate, waiting for the day when they feel more capable or more ready. But that day never comes, because readiness doesn't come before action. It comes after it. You don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. You just need to trust that one small step today is better than standing still. Another common trap is underestimating the impact of small efforts. We live in a culture that celebrates quick results and instant gratification, but real transformation is almost always slow and subtle. It happens in the background, often unnoticed, until the change becomes too big to ignore. Think of how water slowly wears down rock, how seeds grow into trees, how one brick at a time becomes a wall. The other is the power of consistent, patient effort. The small things done daily create a ripple effect. Over weeks, months, and years, they accumulate. And suddenly, what once felt impossible starts to become reality. The beauty of small steps is that they are less likely to be resisted. Big changes often trigger fear, resistance, or burnout. But small steps fly under the radar of the brain's natural defense systems. They're manageable. They feel safe. So we're more likely to follow through. And the more we follow through, the more we build confidence in ourselves. Each small win becomes proof that progress is possible. This proof creates momentum. And momentum is the quiet force that turns effort into achievement. It's also important to remember that small steps are not about doing less. They're about doing what works. Success doesn't come from how hard you work in a single burst of energy. It comes from what you're willing to do repeatedly, even when it's not exciting. That's where consistency shows its true value. Even 5 minutes of focus done every day is more powerful than 2 hours of scattered effort once a week. The key is repetition. Mastery comes not from intensity, but from frequency, from showing up daily and refining as you go. Every meaningful change begins with a single decision, a moment when you stop overthinking, stop waiting, and simply decide to move forward. That moment doesn't need to be dramatic or loud. It can happen quietly in the middle of an ordinary day, but its impact can be life-altering. The decision to commit, to stop making excuses, to choose progress over procrastination. That decision marks the turning point in any journey. And the truth is, that moment of decision is available to you every single day. You don't need a new year, a Monday, or the perfect set of circumstances. You need a willingness to act and the courage to say, I'm done waiting, I'm starting now. Far too often, people delay taking action because they're waiting to feel ready. But readiness is not a feeling, it's a choice. You become ready by doing, not by thinking. The longer you wait for the perfect conditions, the further you drift from your goals. Life will always offer reasons to delay. There will always be responsibilities, distractions, or doubts. But none of those things have the power to stop you unless you give them permission. Choosing to start today in the middle of your busy and imperfect life is the most powerful thing you can do. Because once you start, even in a small way, you begin building momentum. And momentum changes everything. There's a deep psychological shift that happens when you make a firm decision. You go from being passive to active, from uncertain to focused. Instead of hoping things will improve on their own, you take control. You stop being a spectator in your own life and become a participant. This shift in mindset is what separates those who wish from those who achieve. The people who change their lives aren't the ones who always knew what to do. They're the ones who finally decided to stop waiting and take the first step. What keeps most people stuck is not a lack of ability or opportunity, it's indecision. They live in the space between knowing what they want and actually going after it. They hesitate, overanalyze, and convince themselves that they'll begin tomorrow. But tomorrow has no guarantees. The only moment you can truly control is now. By deciding today, you reclaim your power. You stop allowing time, fear, or uncertainty to dictate your path. You send a clear message to yourself that your goals matter, that your time is valuable, and that your future is worth fighting for. When you decide today, you set a new standard for yourself. You raise the bar, not just in what you expect from life, but in what you expect from yourself. You stop settling for average effort, half-hearted attempts, and broken promises. You choose alignment between your actions and your ambitions, and with each choice that follows that decision, you reinforce your new direction. One small decision becomes a habit. One habit becomes a lifestyle, and that lifestyle begins to reflect the future you've been dreaming of. It's important to understand that deciding today doesn't mean you'll have it all figured out. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to know every step ahead. You simply need to commit to the first step and trust that clarity will come with action. The journey may not be easy, and it certainly won't be linear. But once you decide, you shift from waiting to creating, from hesitation to movement. And that shift is the seed of transformation. There's something profoundly liberating about knowing that the direction of your life can change with one decision. It means you're never truly stuck. You're never too late, too old, too inexperienced, or too far gone. As long as you're breathing, you have the power to choose differently. And that choice begins now. Not in some distant future, not when everything feels right, but now. Because waiting won't get you there, but deciding will. So if you've been stuck, doubting, or delaying, this is your reminder that you can draw the line today. You can decide that the excuses stop here, that the waiting ends here, that today is the day you start honoring your goals with action, because no matter how slow your progress, it will always be faster than standing still. And one day you'll look back and realize that everything changed the moment you simply decided to begin. Consistency is not glamorous. It doesn't attract applause or attention. No one sees you waking up early every day, putting in work while the world is still sleeping, or choosing to stay focused when distractions are everywhere. But over time, consistency becomes the most powerful force behind any lasting success. It's the quiet engine that drives results, the daily commitment that builds character, and the habit that transforms ordinary efforts into extraordinary outcomes. When people look at someone who has achieved great things, they often focus on the end result. They marvel at the achievements without recognizing the years of disciplined, consistent effort that built the foundation. Consistency is about showing up day after day, regardless of how you feel. It's not about perfection. It's about persistence. You don't have to do things perfectly every time. You just have to do them regularly. A little progress repeated consistently will always beat massive effort done occasionally. Whether it's going to the gym, building a business, practicing a skill, or developing yourself mentally or spiritually, what matters most is not how hard you go on one day, it's how often you show up on every day. The truth is, results aren't built in moments of intensity. They're built in patterns of commitment. Many people underestimate the power of time combined with consistency. They give up too soon because they expect fast results. But anything worth achieving takes time. Growth is often invisible at first. You can be putting in effort for weeks or months without seeing obvious progress, and it's easy to assume that nothing is happening. But under the surface, your actions are creating momentum. You are developing discipline, resilience, and skill. And one day, that work will manifest outwardly. But only if you stay the course. This is the part that breaks most people. They give up in the quiet phase where it feels like nothing is working. But those who persist through that phase are the ones who eventually break through. Consistency also rewires your identity. Every time you follow through, even in small ways, you're reinforcing the belief that you are someone who keeps going. You start seeing yourself as a committed person, a disciplined person, someone who honors their word. And that identity becomes your compass. It keeps you aligned, focused, and determined even when motivation fades or the road gets tough. You stop needing external validation because you trust yourself. That trust is earned, not through talk, but through action repeated over time. There is also an emotional benefit to consistency. It brings a sense of stability and control into your life. When you're consistent, life doesn't feel as chaotic. You create rhythm, you create structure. This doesn't mean you control every outcome, but it does mean you take control of your input, and that alone changes your relationship with uncertainty. You learn to focus on what you can do today rather than worrying about what you can't control tomorrow. That mindset reduces stress and increases clarity. You don't need to make massive leaps. You just need to stay on track. Another important aspect of consistency is that it builds compound results. Just like saving money grows through compound interest, your efforts compound over time. One workout won't change your body, but hundreds of them will. One day of reading won't change your mind, but years of consistent learning will. This compounding effect is slow at first, almost invisible, but it accelerates the longer you stick with it. And that's why staying consistent is far more important than being extreme. Extremes burn out. Consistency endures. It's also important to remember that consistency is not rigid. It doesn't mean never resting or never adapting. In fact, true consistency includes flexibility. It means knowing when to push and when to recover, when to stay the course and when to adjust. But what never changes is the commitment to keep moving forward. You may need to take a different path, go at a different pace, or shift your strategy, but you never stop showing up. In the end, the people who win in life are not always the most talented, the most connected, or even the most intelligent. More often than not, they are the ones who were willing to be consistent longer than everyone else. They stayed in the game, kept showing up, and kept building brick by brick while others gave up halfway. That's the power of consistency. It multiplies your efforts. It shapes your future. And it proves that slow, steady, intentional action will always outlast short-lived intensity. So if you want to win, don't just act big, act consistently. That's where real lasting change is born. In the end, success doesn't come to those who wait, it comes to those who decide. Decide to stop making excuses, decide to commit to consistency, decide to take that first small step and then take it again tomorrow and the next day after that. Motivation may come and go, but discipline will carry you through the days when it's hard. Your goals aren't waiting for the perfect time. They're waiting for you to show up again and again with quiet determination. The truth is, the life you dream of isn't built in bursts of inspiration. It's built in the ordinary moments when you choose not to quit. So today, draw a line. Say it out loud if you need to. I'm done waiting. Let today be your turning point. Because consistency wins, excuses lose, and the decision you make right now could be the one that changes everything.